views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. This evening, it is the debate for the open city council seat in the 12th City Council District. If you don't know, this district includes Baychester, Eastchester, Edenwald, Fish Bay, Olinville, Wakefield, Williamsbridge, and Woodlawn, essentially in the North and East Bronx. So we appreciate your joining us. The special election for this open seat is on Tuesday, December 22nd. Mail-in balloting and early voting is going on right now. You can see right there on your screen, the absentee ballot request deadline is on December 15th. Early voting is going on now. Mail-in absentee deadline is on the 22nd, and the special election day is also on the 22nd. Tonight's program, as all of our debates, are co-sponsored with the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan political organization that advocates for informed and active participation in government. It works to increase understanding of major public policy issues. We always thank them for their participation in our programs. This evening, we have three candidates who will be running in that special election. So let's introduce them to you now. The first is Pamela Hamilton-Johnson, who is a former school district president, the president of the 47th Precinct Community Council, director of Eastchester Heights Community Center, and the founder and executive director of Urban Neighborhood. And Ms. Hamilton-Johnson, nice to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Great. And we also have a homicide attorney for the Legal Aid Society of New York. It is Neville Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, nice to have you with us, sir.
Mr. Axelbank, thank you for this event, and very nice to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin Riley is the Community Relations Director for Assembly Speaker Carl Hasty. He's also the founder of the Dad Gang, the Music Over Violence organization, and Her Space. Mr. Riley, a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, Gary.
We'll just review the rules. I will direct a question to one candidate. That candidate will respond, then we can have a free-flowing dialogue that each candidate will participate in. The original respondent will have the final say on that question. Each candidate will need to just acknowledge and be recognized before they speak. And at the end of the program, each candidate will be delivering a 1-minute closing statement. By prior agreement, the first question will be directed to you, Mr. Riley. Thank you again for joining us. Let's talk about health, schools, the business districts. I mean, there are just a myriad of issues. If you are the council member, how do we get out of this, and what do you do in your district?
Thank you, Gary. And I'm not sure if I missed, but we also represent Co-op City here in the 12th. But it's an amazing question. We're in a global pandemic right now, and I think the most important thing that we need to do right now is trace the virus and see the most effective areas within our community. Right now, we're trying to encourage everybody within our community to be tested, so we're able to trace this virus and able to contain it. As we go into the heart of winter, we need to take into mind that a lot of people that are taking the test are standing on long lines. So in order to trace the virus moving forward, we have to have more testing sites within our communities in order to do so. And with the vaccination that should be approved today and coming into the city by tomorrow, I believe people in our community are very afraid about this vaccination and want to be educated on what's in the vaccination and how it could harm them or how they could receive side effects from this vaccination. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, in order to keep this vaccination traced and contained, we have to get people tested. And we also want to educate our community about the vaccination when it comes. now to education. As a remote educator right now, I'm home right now with both of my daughters. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and it's very challenging as a parent to be the educator, because my fiance is a 1199 essential worker, so she has to be at work every day. And I have been with the children throughout this pandemic, and as many parents are trying to juggle work and helping their child educate, they don't have adequate Wi-Fi or technology in order to do so. And that's something that's going on within the community. And I plan on creating a task force with educational leaders within our community to go around school to school, to find out how many students aren't properly equipped with this technology to be educated. Now, small businesses, Governor Cuomo just stated right now, it just came out that Monday, indoor dining will be shut down, and a lot of more places like gyms and other locations will be shut down also. And our small businesses are panicking over here because they're unable to run their business and still be able to provide for their communities. I think it's very essential that we help our small business modernize and open back up safely, that they're able to have foot trafficking, but also a lot of our businesses have been in the district for years and aren't able to have any traffic within their offices or businesses, because they're not trying to contract the disease. So we want to help them with a program to help more businesses modernize within our community, that people could support them online, and also support them when the pandemic is over and they're able to walk back in.
We have to talk about leadership, presidential leadership, and the transition into presidential leadership. We have one president who is not embracing and not in telling the world that we need to wear a mask. He himself has had it himself. So I want to just say leadership, and I'll be glad when the Biden-Harris administration comes in. Now, what I do is at the East Chester Heights Community Center, I'm an essential worker. So while those workers who are 1199, those who are NYPD, their children come to our community center. So we watch them during the day. If they want remote learning, we accommodate for that. If they want blended learning, we accommodate for that. The thing is, at our community center, we provide our children with PPP. We provide them with screens over their faces. They also have splash guards. So we keep our children safe, and we work during COVID. So in reference to our community center, we just don't give it to the kids, we give it to the community. So anyone can walk into our community center and we will give them a mask. We will give them hand sanitizer. We will give them gloves if they need it. The thing about our community is that it's hitting us so hard that our pantry lines are so long. And we need to be able to feed our residents. And at the East Chester Heights Community Center, we do food giveaways. And where we partnered with RAIN, where we had 12 weeks of food for our seniors, where we delivered it. We don't have enough testing sites in our community. We don't have enough mobile sites in our community. And we're getting ready at the East Chester Heights Community Center to get the packet where you can self-test yourself. And I believe that we can make this world a better place if we all were on the same page. Everybody wore a mask. Everybody, were 6 feet apart. And if we can do that for our community, that would be terrific.
Well, Mr. Riley talked about the pandemic, essential workers, small businesses, all of that is true. The question before the people of Bronx 12 is who's the best candidate to represent Black Bronx 12. And it's really, as Ms. Hamilton-Johnson said, about leadership. That's what it's about. I think I'm the only one here who's actually had COVID and was quarantined for 15 days. And so I know what that is like. I know what it takes in terms of being quarantined from your family in the same house and dealing with that. The question again of essential workers in Bronx 12 is simply that the people in Bronx 12 are essential workers. They're not classified as such, but they're taking the trains from the North Bronx down to Manhattan and back in the evenings, and some of them overnight back in the mornings. The schools that Mr. Riley talks about is also in terms of modernizing the schools for ventilation, making sure that the kids have computers, but it doesn't matter if they have computers if the parents are not home. So there's a panoply of issues. The biggest issue that we face in this election, and I'm just going to put it on the table, is that one candidate has the endorsement of an alphabet soup of unions. How he got those endorsements, I don't know. I feel like I'm running against Carl Hastie because that's how the endorsements came. So if we're going to talk about running this election and running fairly, you have a panoply, an alphabet soup of endorsements for Mr. Riley. Nobody ever talked to Pamela Johnson. Nobody ever talked to me. Those endorsements are coming from Carl Heastie's office. If you're going to run, you stand on your own. You get your own endorsements, man.
Okay, got it. Mr. Riley, presumably you want to respond to that.
No, I don't. But I want to add on to my original statement. I was able to bring a walk-in testing site to the community that's open 7 days a week and drives a loop. And also addressing the food insecurities within our community also is something that's imperative moving forward. Thank you.
I just want to expound on the education piece in reference to not having Wi-Fi. Every child should have in this district, but they don't have it. And we don't have to go to school to find out how many kids don't have it. The superintendent knows exactly how many. And there was a delivery several weeks ago of 20,000. Now the question is, where was it sent to in our district and how many is left? But they actually have that number. During the COVID, I don't see any reason why those who don't have Wi-Fi, Verizon cannot give them 6 months of free Wi-Fi or even give them an internet-ready laptop. And one of the other things is that the ventilation, there's a bill in the city council. So when I become your city council woman, I want to champion that bill about bringing and updating the infrastructure in our educational school.
Next question for you goes to Mr. Mitchell. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter and the relationship between police and communities in the council district. Are you in favor of defund the police? Is it a good concept, but the phrase scares people? Or do you not favor the entire concept of reworking the police budget?
Well, clearly, I am in favor of reimagining the police. When you say defund the police, it's language that's used that gets people who don't want to see any changes in the police department, gets their back up, and they say you want to take money away from the police department. Police department, I think, has a $6 billion budget, which is basically they are accountable to no one, right? The police department does things that are not police department things. Somebody's having a mental issue, somebody's having an attack, heart attack, and the policeman, let's just stick with the mental issue, right? You're having some sort of issue. And your family calls the police and the police shows up, you have a knife, police department personnel, whether it's an officer, whoever's on the scene, has a gun. That's really a prescription for disaster if that person is not trained, right? So yes, I'm in favor of reimagining the police, taking away some of the money that they have and putting that into other I don't even want to say the word programs, but putting that to organizations or even other professionals that can deal with issues that are not really police issues. I want to go back to one thing, 10 seconds. It is amazing to me that somebody can be on this stage, has, to my mind, 7 endorsements and doesn't want to talk about it. There's an endorsement from HTC, endorsement from Transportation Union, UFT, 32BJ. All of these people is endorsing. When you ask him to talk about it, he says, I don't have any response to that. That is an amazing thing. If people endorse me, I want to talk about what I did, why they would endorse me, that I went to and talk to them. Why do you not want to talk about that, Mr. Riley? Tell us why you were endorsed. Okay. Or an endorsement from Carl Heastie telling people to back you up. I'm sure Ms. Hamilton-Johnson has an opinion on this.
I don't believe in defunding the police department in New York City. The city council has already taken money out of their budget. If you look at the city council budget, you will see that the money is already taken out. Now, the question is, what are we going to do with that money? So I believe that we should put it in programs that are preventative programs for our youth. It should go to the youth so that they can understand should go to education, it could go to college, because when you get an education, we add more to you. You're able to understand, what life is about. You're able to see things differently. You're able to not be at-risk behaviors. So in this community, our residents that I've spoken to do not want the police defunded. However, they do want the police department to be restructured. That is true. And they want I personally want psychologicals every 5 years. I would like to see an expansion of the NCO program where we have our neighborhood cops who actually have meetings every 90 days with the people in our community so that they can bridge the gap and actually talk to our neighborhood officers. And we have 4 sectors in this, in District 12, A, B, C, and D, and they actually really do a good job. Unfortunately, the community doesn't always come out to the meetings, but it is here, and we would like to bridge the gap. But I definitely do not believe in in defunding the police department.
Mr. Riley, I guess there's a couple of things on the table for you, sir.
Thank you, Gary. This year, the mayor negotiated to answer to respond to what Ms. Johnson stated. They only cut $420 million from the budget, and they said that they were going to cut $1 billion from the police budget, and it included $330 million for planned overtime, which most likely won't happen, and $55 million by eliminating hiring for the summer class, which is 1,163 new recruits. I do believe in reallocating funding from the police department to reinvest it in our communities. In order to prevent violence, in order to bridge the gap between police and community, we have to reinvest in our communities. As growing up and losing my father to the criminal justice system and watching him being taken away from me, a lot of kids in our communities lost their parents to the criminal justice system and don't really trust the police officers. We have a beautiful program called the NTO program, which covers our district, 4 sectors within our community. And I believe that program needs to be expanded. And also a police athletic league. It was something that I really looked forward to when I was growing up as a kid to always be involved in. I think that should be incorporated in each precinct.
It's not about programs. Every time I hear Mr. Riley's talking about programs, the issue is if you have the police department doing functions that are not police functions, that's the issue. It's not about training anything out of the police department. It's about fundamental respect for the members of the community. Young Mr. Riley, your father, you didn't lose your father. He was taken from you by a system that's designed to do that. And so when your father went away, it's because the system was designed to take him away from you. And obviously you did very well with other people supporting you. And that's what our community does. If people are being taken out of our community, what happens?
Okay.
The people step up. So
Thank you.
fundamentally, the issue with the police department is respect for the people that they serve and understand that that's the way it goes. You serve the community will respect you if you do the right things.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hamilton-Johnson. There are a couple of projects in the district, the Gun Hill Golf Range project, which there was some disagreement on. The council member felt one way, the community and the community board felt another way. The animal shelter program or the proposal in Co-op City, there were people who felt one way and other people felt another way. Who should have the say? Should the home council member have the say? Or if he or she does, where does that leave the community? How important is the community voice and the community board's voice in this?
As your next female city councilwoman, I believe that that decision should be shared among the councilwoman, in the community. I think it should be shared. There isn't any reason why a council member would override the request of the community. And when you hear that, you think to yourself, what is the overriding thought decision of that council person? Because you want to make sure that they don't have other special interests in their pocket or talking in a way where they would inhibit the voice of our community. So as your next council person, I don't believe in member deference. I believe in that it should be shared and that the community should have a part in the say of what is going on in their community. Because I was there when the mall happened and I was down at City Hall and I protested along with Co-op City residents because we didn't need another mall when we already had it. There are other things that can be done. We have overcrowding in our schools in this district. We need more seats in this district. And there were better things to do with that property than to build a mall. And so in reference to the veterinary place that was coming, there were both sides. It was kind of split, especially in, I just believe it should be shared and it should be legislated that it should be a shared decision. And then that decision should be brought to the city council.
Fair enough. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yes.
Mr. Riley, go ahead.
Yes, I believe that it should be shared. We're representing our community, so we're backing and we're the vessel from our community to City Hall. I plan on if I do gain the support of my community to be a next council member, to extend the EULA process from 60 days to 90 days, which will allow the community board to have more of a say so with wherever development and organization or plan that's coming to the community. also with the 2/3 vote. A lot of the times, if a community board and a borough president votes yes and the city council member votes no, like you stated, it usually goes where the city council member wants to go. I think it should be strictly a 2/3 vote, that even if the community board and the borough president's office wants to go with a project and the city council member doesn't want to go with the project, it should still go through. So I think it should always defer right back to the community, and the land use in our community should always depend on what the community wants in that specific space.
I agree on a fundamental level with what Mr. Riley just said, right? It's representative government. And so you're going to get elected as a city council person. It is anathema to representative government for the city council person, when I become city councilman from this district, to have a position that's contrary to the members of the community. So the way you fix that is when you become a city council person, you have to interact with your community. You're representing what they want. And if the community wants one thing and the city council member thinks he's better and he has a different idea, well, maybe he shouldn't be in that, or she should be in that position. And we'll have another election to decide who is going to represent the views of the community. The 2/3 rule, I think, is something that should not be supported, right? So the borough president says one thing, the community board says another thing, and the city council. The people that run this community, or the people that are important in this community, are the members of the community. The city councilman, city council person, in deference to Ms. Johnson, represent the community. You cannot have a different position unless you articulate it to the community and they then say, okay, you've convinced me.
I agree that it should be shared. I really don't think the borough president really should have a part in the say. I think those who live in the community should be the voice of what comes in and what goes in their community. And so between the council member and the community, I think that's where the decision should lie.
District 12 has been a transportation desert. Redesign a transportation system that's more efficient, keeping in mind that communities in the Bronx, many of them in the East Bronx and also in other parts of the Bronx, have had a lot of issues with road diet. So it's very easy to say we're going to do a road diet and eliminate the lanes and put more bike lanes in, but that has not been received well in a lot of communities. Mr. Riley, what do you think?
I believe in our community has been a huge transit desert, and especially in our Co-op City area where people have to travel very far to get to the train station, to go to work, to enter the city, and it's been a very big issue. We're looking forward to the transit, the Amtrak that's going to be coming to our area. It's going to be very, helpful for a lot of people in our community to travel within New York City. But when it comes to bike lanes, and as me becoming a biker through this pandemic, it has been challenging because during the summer I was actually hit off my bike by a car because of the lack of bike lanes within the community. So it's a conversation that I'm very open to have with the members in our community, because I know during the pandemic we did develop a huge biker population. But being that it's a transit desert, we don't have a city bike alternative over here. So for members in the community to transport from our side of the community through the Bronx or through the from Co-op City to White Plains Road, they kind of have to get on the bus, and the bus lines that weren't really restored fully back after they were taken away from Co-op City haven't been given back to us. So I believe moving forward that we definitely need more alternatives for transportation.
I did have a conversation with the management of Co-op City, and I did ask that same question in reference to the buses, and they basically said that yes, that the buses were taken away, but pretty much were restored back to the normal service that they had. What happens is that they change the routes, but it's still covering, they're changing the way the buses go, but it's still covering the same stops that they have. And so what I wanted to say about the bike lanes, there are some streets that have bike lanes where there's no one riding a bike. So if you have a one-way street, I find it to be extremely dangerous on a small one-way street, especially I think it's 216th Street, that has bike lanes, and it has to be enough space for you to ride your bike, for you to drive down the street, and make sure that someone who is parked doesn't open up their door. So I think there really needs to be assessment, because there really is pushback about the bike lanes. I don't think anybody does not want the bike lanes. It's just that some places that they have it is just not necessary. And there needs to probably be another assessment on it.
Motorcycles, we're talking about bicycles. Well, the issue is, are the people that are driving cars going to respect the people that are riding bicycles? Are the people that are riding bicycles going to be careful about when you're riding your bike down the street, somebody opens the door, you're flying over the door. I'm grateful that Mr. Riley wasn't seriously injured. But the question is what, really in what Ms. Johnson just said, that buses were taken away, they were restored. You got to make sure that you have enough buses and bus routes. And you can also employ shuttles. Amtrak is coming, the stations have got to be equidistant, and we got to have a situation where we make sure that the entire community is served. Co-op City is connected to Wakefield, and all of that stuff happens, right? It's a question of putting the money in to get the job well done for everybody. That's simply what it is. And making sure that the lanes are restored, the stations are restored, and there's enough traffic to really have that stuff go on the way we want it to happen and for people to be properly served.
Let's do closing statements. We'll shorten them to 30 seconds to make sure that we have enough time for everybody. So Mr. Riley, you are first.
The District 12, I thank you for saving my life. I thank you for raising me to become the man I am today. Throughout the adversities and the challenges that I had growing up within this community, you all have strayed me on the right path. And for leading me my entire life, I think it's now the opportunity for me to step up and lead you guys during this global pandemic. You have taught me resilience during adversities, and I believe that now is the time that we need a resilient leader to carry us out throughout this pandemic. Thank you. I love you all, and I appreciate all the support that I'm getting from everybody. Thank you.
And what we really need is somebody who is a real leader, but is prepared to serve and has integrity, right? Mr. Riley just thanked everybody for their support, but he wasn't willing to talk about the hotel trades, Transportation Workers Union, United Federation of Teachers, all the people who ostensibly came from Carl Hastie. So are we running against Carl Hastie, or are we running against Mr. Riley? If people are supporting you, you're thanking them, call them by their names and explain how you got their endorsement, where they never again spoke to Ms. Johnson, they never spoke to me, they never spoke to anybody else. I am the person best situated to represent the people in this community because of my 30 years as an attorney. First 10 years starting out in the Bronx. I grew up at 217th Street and Bronxwood Avenue. I was educated at Olinville High School, where I was the valedictorian. I went to the Bronx High School of Science, City College. I'm ready to serve. Ready to serve.
Hi, everyone. My name again is Pamela Hamilton-Johnson, and I will be the first woman and woman of color to ever hold this seat in this district. And I wanted to let you know that I will not and have not received any political action committee money. I haven't received any money from the corporations or special interests like my other candidates. And I want to let you know that I am not in the pocket of anyone. When you speak, I will listen. When you talk, I will talk. I will represent you as best as I can in this community. I am second on the ballot. My donations in this community have come from 90% of the people who live here, where Mr. Riley is only half 50. You can best believe that you will be number one.
I can't say people are all taking money. I'm funding my own campaign.
We really got to go. I'm so sorry, Mr. Mitchell. Pamela Hamilton-Johnson, thank you very much. Kevin Riley, thank you, sir, very much. And Neville Mitchell, thank you. Folks, we thank the League of Women Voters. Don't forget to vote on December 22nd, especially if you are in Council District 12. We appreciate everybody's time. Thanks to our producers.
Don't forget early voting. It starts tomorrow.
Thank you all for watching. Thank the candidates. Thank the League of Women Voters. Thank the producers. And good night.